The following is a Fight Club presentation. When rising superstar Gervonta Tank Davis looked across the landscape of the three divisions in which he's held world titles in, the options available to him from a political and network scenario were far from enticing. Davis, the 26-year-old knockout machine from Baltimore, who holds the WBA secondary lightweight and junior welterweight titles, was fresh off of two pay-per-view bouts. The first being his pay-per-view debut last October, where he recorded the knockout of the year with a brutal uppercut that left four-division champion Leo Santa Cruz out cold under the turnbuckle for several minutes. Looking to capitalize on his momentum as a growing pay-per-view and box office draw, Davis decided a rash decision of sorts was in order. Despite cutting down in weight to face Santa Cruz at 130 pounds, Davis then decided to move up two divisions for his return, where he fought WBA secondary junior welterweight title holder Mario Barrios in Atlanta back in June of this year. And although Barrios' size gave Tank some issues early in the fight, that too ended in devastating fashion, with Tank living up to his reputation as one of the most devastating punchers in the division. In both of these bouts, heck, in all of Tank's fights, he looks vicious and actively pursues the knockout as if he has a disdain for the opponent across the ring from him. But if you ask Davis, it's just business. If there's one thing that will entice the boxing fans about Davis's next matchup, it's that on December the 5th at the Staples Center in Los Angeles, Gervonta will be emotionally invested. This time, it's personal.
All the stars have lined up to make this perfect. The only person that could bitch out now is Gervonta Davis.
The undefeated and hard-hitting contender Rolando Rolly Romero has been telling anyone that will listen that he's the next big thing in boxing, and that the fight with Tank will be easy work.
I am the real champion because the real champion, I'm gonna fuck him up anyways, but I'm the real champion, you know?
And while Romero has had some solid performances in his career, which includes a demolition job in his last fight against Anthony Yiggett, the 25-year-old has also had some questionable scorecards go his way when he fought then undefeated Jackson Martinez back in August of 2020. The fight, which Romero seemingly lost comfortably, was somehow scored in favor of Rolly's by unanimous decision.
He is now the interim WBA lightweight world champion, Rolando Rolly Romero.
Al, Abner, your face will say it all. Does mine as well?
Of course, fighters can develop, and Romero seems to have done that in abundance, especially considering his last two performances were both against fighters who missed weight, with Yiggett missing the weight by a whopping 5 pounds. That means, officially, Rolly fought a fighter a division above his natural weight class. The fighting spirit to disregard a clear disadvantage should perhaps be expected from Romero, who seemed destined to enter the world of combat sports at a young age when he began his fighting journey at the age of 9, when he started competing in judo.
He didn't want to do boxing at first, but then when he was 17 he started to practice. He was doing judo before.
Initially, Rolly Romero wanted to follow in the footsteps of his sister, Angelica Romero, who is a 7-time national judo champion. But Romero would eventually gravitate toward boxing after his father encouraged him to trade his gi for some gloves.
17, we were watching 2012 Olympics, me and my pops, and I was like, I could do that. And I went to the gym and I started boxing, and ever since then, I've been in it.
Unfortunately for Tank, his introduction to boxing was not out of inspiration, but out of necessity.
Both of my parents was on drugs, and my mother left me and my brother in the house by herself.
With his father imprisoned, Davis would move from foster home to group home. And the disruption of those formative years hardened Davis. And at the age of 8, he'd fight with neighborhood kids, which included 15-year-olds, for his brother. His uncle, James Walker, observed one of the skirmishes and told his nephew, "We've got to turn something negative into a positive." With financial assistance from another uncle to buy boxing equipment, they took him to a gym operated by Coach Calvin Ford.
My son, he wanted to go back in Jersey, and he made a comment. And he sit there and say, "Man, you'll make a good role model for Gervonta." And ever since then, it was just like my son was just telling me, "I'm not gonna be here. Put Shorty up under your wing."
For those who watched the HBO series The Wire, Ford served as inspiration for the show's character, Cuddy, who on the show is a former stick-up man who's gone to jail for a long period of time, as Ford did for 10 years on racketeering and conspiracy charges.
You get your stance right, then you got the means to put your hip into the punch.
By Gervonta's own admission, if it wasn't for the gym, he would have been out in the neighborhood, running up to no good. But thanks to his prestigious talents, he was out of town most of the time, away, competing in competitions. After a stellar amateur career, which included 205 wins and only 15 losses, Tank would go pro and never look back.
And this fight is over! Gervonta Davis at 22 becomes the youngest champion in boxing!
Of course, Tank is still hungry for more, and perhaps destined. He is, after all, unofficially grouped under the banner The Four Kings, alongside Teofimo Lopez, Devin Haney, and Ryan Garcia. Ironically enough, Rolly has had a memorable spat with Haney.
Devin Haney is the biggest bitch, not just at 135, in boxing.
An infamous sparring session with Garcia, and is good friends with his former sparring partner Lopez. He is also under the same banner as Tank, with both being promoted by Floyd Money Mayweather. What will be interesting come fight night is how much Floyd will play a part in Tank's preparation. After all, he did play a large role in Davis's victory over Barrios.
I need this 10, 11, and 12 on the unofficial. He's down. I gotta be honest with you. That's what you want. You want from me. Hey, that's what you want from me. You don't want nobody lying to you. I'm 100 with you.
It's another interesting intangible to a bout which many have brushed off as nothing more than a mismatch. But at face value, this is a fight between two undefeated knockout artists, both coming off good performances, and both having a genuine disdain for each other.
I'm gonna land a fucking shot on Tank, and he's going to sleep, and he's never gonna want to box again.
Throw in the fact that Tank is one of the most exciting fighters in the division, and we seemingly have a fun fight, which is guaranteed to be won by either fighter through a ferocious knockout. And sometimes, the promise of such brutality is enough to grade a fight, featuring a seemingly lighter touch opponent, as must-see TV. And if the matchup between Gervonta Tank Davis and Rolando Rolly Romero is to be judged in one sentence, then it should simply be described as the prior unmissable must-see TV.